Hello, welcome back. As you can see, I've started the tender. Really very little to it, surprisingly. As always, there's a lot of photographs to go with this, and we've started at section 1, which is putting the wheels together, putting the cross members into the chassis rails, and then it's on to page 2, well, not page 2, it's section 2, putting the springs and the brakes, well, that's just the springs, putting the springs onto the side of the chassis, then building the water tank and the coal bunker, and then putting all the little bits of accessories on. So there's not a lot to it. Basically, that's it on the outside. There's very little detail. There's as with the engine, the locomotive, there was a lot of detail, certainly in the braking system. And there's nothing. The brake shoes and actuators just hang from the side of the chassis and appear from nowhere, basically. There's a couple of little details on the springs. I suppose they'd have to put those on, otherwise it just wouldn't look right. And that's about it. It's fairly easy and very surprisingly very short on detail. The wheels, as you'll see in a little video, a short video that I made, don't fit on the ends of the axles very well. It looks to me as though the wheels were made to have poly caps in them and actually turn, but there's no poly cap, so they just wobble around inside. The axle just wobbles around inside the hole in the middle of the axle, which isn't great. It takes a little bit of work to straighten them up, straighten the wheels up because of that. I have got them as straight as I can, and what I've also done is put a spot of glue on each of the brake shoes so that it all holds it in place, and that's about the best you can do with it, really. Other than that, there's not a lot to do. A couple of boxes that need building up and sticking on, and that's about it. The base of the tender is the shell of the tender itself, again fairly easy. That's a water tank at the bottom, and it's really quite a big water tank. On the back there we have the 3 lights. According to the diagrams, it's got 2 amber ones. Well, it actually says white on the instructions, but as I mentioned in the past, I've looked at the videos of the real train and they are amber, so they will be amber lights when they're lit up. And 1 red one at the top there. I've altered the position of the one at the top there slightly because it was easier for me to put it there than have it sticking up above. The wires for those lights come inside. They will go into a distribution block here, and then I'll show you where they go in a second or two. As I've mentioned in other videos, the wires will come out of the locomotive and go into this tender. And these are the 3 conduits that I've put in to facilitate that, to allow it to happen. This one is a water, I don't know what it is really, water pipe possibly, going into the locomotive, and the floor of the locomotive comes to about here, so you won't actually see these 3 tubes coming out here. There's a loop on the top of the tender, the water tank, which I'm guessing would be made out of some kind of flexible material to try and seal the cold, stop the cold getting in, basically. If I can get that back off again. Doesn't seem to want to come off. There it is. I'll show you that again in a minute or two. But other than that, it's 5 pieces glued together. It's 4 sides and a base. That's it. So that's that one. That's my cat crying. In the tender itself, I'll show you the top of the tender first. As I've just mentioned this, there's a couple of little bits on the inside there that go into the locomotive. The door for the coal bunker. This here is the coal bunker, and it comes with 4 greedy boards. Well, as a truck driver we call them greedy boards, just to get a little bit more coal in. Yeah, and they're optional. I've put them on because I paid for them. I'm having them, and they go all the way around. They won't fit at the corners. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of filler on the corners of the coal bunker as well, and there is on the corners of the water tank as well, and it needs a little bit more yet to fill in the holes. They don't fit very well. And inside the coal bunker, I've glued a little baffle in there, and that will allow me to install the battery in there. Battery will then hook into that little distribution board there, and then all the wiring will come up through the hole I've cut in the bottom there. So it'll come out of the bottom of the water tank, cables coming out of there, and cables coming from the back of the locomotive through those 3 pipes, then up through that hole into the distribution board there. Then that will have the coal on top of it there. Okay. For a switch to turn it on and off, I bought these from China, little tiny switches. You can see it's not very big. It's not even the size of the end of my finger, and it's what they call a latch switch. You press it once, it's on. Press it again, and it's off. And that, you can see I've cut a hole in the back of the coal bunker there, and that will fit into that hole. And when it's all painted, because it's going to be gloss black, I defy anybody to see that, so it'll just stick out a little bit like that. Yep, and that's about where I'm up to with that. As I say, there's very little to do with the tender. I was surprised. I expected a lot more work to get it right, but there's not much to it at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all this assembled, put it all together completely, then I'm going to paint it all, and then I'm going to put it behind the locomotive, and then I'll do a final reveal with the 2 of them put together. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the space below, and it would be great if you could like and subscribe. See you next time. Ta-ra!